Hello and welcome to a brand new series of overview videos. And today we're going to talk about prompt engineering and generative AI. This is a topic that I used to cover at the very end of this class, but now it has become really a key operator in this course. And when I think about AI and the way that we use it in marketing and in social media, it's become something that is absolutely worth talking about early in the process rather than late. So let's get right into it. There's going to be a good amount of learning about how specifically to use AI in the form of prompting. Not We're not going to really get into the details of ethics and like when to use it, when not to use it. That is going to be a little bit later. But I think at this point we've all been fed the long party line about using AI for brainstorming. Don't use it just to just automate everything, and it's supposed to be more of a companion, not a replacement. And I think we're past that. I think 3 years ago I would have just talked about that, but now we are at a place where AI is not just about trying to make your life easier. It is using it to enrich and help improve the work and the timing that you spend creating content. Not just creating content, but also strategy. And if you want to look outside of marketing, all sorts of different applications. Now, for me, I use AI more in a automated way, more in a, I wouldn't say I'm at the point where it's agentic yet, where it's an entire person, but it's getting close for me, where it can be more of an employee. And I do think, though, that in every case, it's important to understand the basics of prompting. Now, these are our learning objectives. There are four things here, and it's essentially like four different ways to look at prompt engineering, which I'm going to talk about shortly. And just know going into this, this is not a super technical thing. This is more just some strategies to make your life a little easier when you are using an AI chatbot. And we're going to dig into some of those now. Again, I try to keep my videos short, so I'm probably not going to get very far in each section because there's a lot here, and I do want to take a couple minutes to explain what these are. Some of this is going to seem pretty obvious to you, but others, again, I want to use these slides as really a new way to think about what you're trying to get AI to do. A lot of times when people go into using chat or Claude or Gemini or anything like that, we go into it with a very open mind, which is great. But sometimes that's not great. Where if you start to broad based on what your final output is, you end up with spending too much time with it. And really, prompt engineering is about. I mean, I think the reason that you want to understand how to prompt effectively is so that you don't waste too much time with AI and unnecessary creation from it, unnecessary responses, outputs. And, for me, I try to be cognizant of the environmental impact and the computing impact that AI has on, AI has on really the work that we do. And so for me, I try to be as efficient as possible. Now, you're never going to be able to get in and out with one prompt these days. It's going to take a series, but again, that's what engineering is here for. If I can help reduce the time that you're using AI from say 30 minutes to 20 minutes, I think that's an advantage. If I can reduce the number of prompts and outputs from 30 to 15, that's also to me a win. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, I'm going to look at a handful of AI chatbots, just some quick terminology. Something like ChatGPT, where there's a conversation, that is considered an AI chatbot. Now, we're getting to be a little bit more advanced and there's more options. And I know, at least for me, I use all of my different AI platforms in different ways. I use them all for something different. Um, and I'll be sharing some of those separately. But really, we call this like an AI stack where you have a series of platforms that you can use either together or individually for different things to help improve your daily life, whether that's work, whether you're working or not. And the way that I look at it these days, it all kind of started with and still starts with chat, where what you have here, this first screen that you get, right? This is where you're putting in the prompt. This ask anything, that is the prompt. Now you see this little thing that says one-click prompts. That's an option where you try to get a full answer immediately. I don't really recommend that. I do think AI is supposed to be more of a conversation, anyways. But again, we don't want it to drag on all day. And so it is important to really understand just kind of how these work. So we have chat. That's number one. That's always been the market leader. But recently we've started to see it take a little bit of a tumble. And now we have Gemini, which Google has pushed upon us over the last couple of years. You see a lot of searches now get a Gemini response first. And it's almost like you have to use Gemini instead of just a traditional Google search. And if you're taking this class, you're probably somewhat familiar with the way that Google and search works. So, I'll spare you the details. But if you use Gemini as a standalone product, I do find it fascinating that it simplifies it instead of, looking at the level, right? Chat offers pro and all these different variations. With Gemini, it's fast or, normal speed or slow or very fast. But again, they all start with the box, the little output box. Claude, technically, I believe Claude is still third in terms of usage. Chat still is number one. Gemini is number two. Claude has grown immensely over the last 6 to 8 months. And there are thoughts that it will eventually take over Gemini, or actually Gemini will take over chat. Claude will take over chat as well. It's going to be hard to beat Gemini, I think, long term, just in terms of usage, because we're all going to be kind of forced upon it, or it's going to be forced upon us. And in case you're wondering, number four, I believe, is still Perplexity. A small minority. I do use Perplexity as well. But this is where we're at. We have a pretty advanced slew of chatbots at our disposal, and it really all starts with here. All right, we have a prompt. That's the input provided by the user. That's you, me. And the output is what AI creates based on our prompt and our context clues. Now, I think these are pretty obvious, but I do want to share one thing. A lot of times people forget that when AI is providing an answer, it doesn't just look at what we provide. It provides all the background information that it already has. That background information comes from a variety of places. And that includes training data, which is the intelligence it has amassed over the years. Web searches, if it were to search the web as part of it, a lot of people just use chat and other AI for as a enhanced Google. But also there's stuff that you could have submitted. With all of the platforms, there is an option to essentially create a master prompt that's in the background that we'll talk about separately. And then also you can provide it additional user submitted information in the prompt. So an example here would be, hey, based on all the knowledge I've provided, this is like if you're in the midst of a project, right? Hey, I've given you all this, I've given chat all this information. I want you to write a high-level summary describing the differences between influencers and ambassadors. That's something we talk about later in the course. But don't write any more than 300 words. Be sure to define both terms. And you'll see what chat would say here. It's like, hey, it goes through its thought process. I'm pulling the exact phrasing from the chapter on influencers and ambassadors. So the summary stays aligned. To give you some background information, I was writing some case studies or looking to actually write a book that included a whole chapter on influencers and ambassadors. And what I would do is I would upload the chapters to chat, and I would have chat maintain my definitions and maintain the stuff I'd already talked about. So something that was really helpful is like, hey, I want to make sure I didn't already define influencers in an earlier chapter. And if I did, what did I say? Because this is a book that would take years to write. And this is the one time where I thought like this actually was very helpful because I don't know how many times I had written 100,000 words at that point. I don't know how many times I had to go through and find different, like, control F's for influencers and ambassadors. So, hey, just give me a high level summary between what I've already done. And then this is here what it would come back with. So you can see, right, in the little dialog box under it, thought for 13 seconds, there's a paragraph, and then it looks at exactly where it pulled the information. That little paper file button, I guess what people call those icons now, just a file icon. Back in the day, I think that was that would be like if you're creating a new project. That would be what it's pulling from, right? So it was pulling from specific files of content that I provided it. That's really the idea behind a prompt, and the background information that you provide it. But coming up next, I'm going to pause here, and we're going to look at outputs. We're going to look more at the definition of prompt engineering and how this all works together. Again, I try to keep my videos short. I'm at 10, 13 minutes now, so I am going to try to keep this short. But in part 2, again, we'll look more into what prompt engineering is. I think we really just looked at the prompts and what goes into it here in this first video. But now we will get more into it next time.